welcome back everybody to On the Ball, the video podcast series from the Vanderbilt Sports and Society Initiative. I'm Andrew Maraniss and joined today by Jordan Scheidecker from a school that has become very close to my heart. I've been up there a few times now, Clair County Community College in Port Huron, Michigan. Jordan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's a great school. Please say hi to, Pete Lacey has been my main contact there, but Kirk Kramer and so many other members of the staff have welcomed me a couple of times to talk about my books. And they tipped me off that, in fact, you had joined the university in part as the new wheelchair basketball coach as part of an adaptive sports program that SC4 is implementing. First community college in the country to do this. Tell me about what's going on there and what's new and different, and how SC4 is leading the way in this regard.
Yeah, so kind of my background in the sport, just really quick, is that I grew up and found the sport later in life. It was an accidental situation where I found it outside of my high school. Thankfully, a really passionate parent of my teammates came up to me and my family and said, "Hey, this guy needs to play." And so when I showed up to that first practice, really one of the first things you talk about in the wheelchair basketball community at that time was the college division that's in the NWBA and all the different colleges that have teams. And I was really fortunate to live one road 45 minutes away from a really successful program in Whitewater. So thankful that they kind of let me walk on, be on the team, learn so much from my teammates, not only about wheelchair basketball, but just how to ultimately appreciate myself as a person with a disability. And so got really passionate in, creating environments like that and experiences like that for, the next generation or even other people, because there's so many times where we work with different demographics of the population. But with all that being said, just again, really passionate about making sure I had my own space to where I could build something special. And I was constantly looking at adaptive sports opportunities, wheelchair basketball coaching positions on a website called Indeed that everybody's pretty familiar with, and stumbled across SD4. And what was the cool part about that is I didn't know anything. And like I said, I'm super connected. And to be so connected and not know anything, I was very interested in the position. And you find out more information as you interview and things like that, but had really great conversations with SC4 about what it would take to bring a successful wheelchair basketball coach to their campus, and talk to them about the things that I needed, and was really encouraged about how excited they were about me and then their ability to kind of meet those needs. So thankful for them. And that's kind of how the process got me here in Port Huron, Michigan from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin, and I saw a picture when you were a little kid in a Packers t-shirt, and I'm a Packers fan myself, so we got that in common. So you said you came to wheelchair basketball relatively late in life. I believe your disability is cerebral palsy, right? And so what sort of opportunities did you have at all for in playing sports, as a kid growing up?
Yeah, this is a fun part for me to talk about because I get to talk about my relationship with my little brothers. I was the oldest of the brothers, and really thankful that my brothers were very impressionable by me specifically. So they liked the Packers and the Brewers and the Bucks and all those Wisconsin sports. And one of the other parts of my background that I'm really comfortable with just talking about is I was a low income, child, and a family came from that. And ultimately, we did things like, make baskets out of cardboard and tape and roll up a tape ball and play indoor basketball where it was like a version of football, and we would tackle each other and different things like that. We would go out in the yard and just play baseball and count how many times we could throw it as hard as we could at each other and catch it and things like that. And so ultimately just kind of coaching my brothers and competing against them. Ultimately, they were my first competition and my first teammates. So really thankful to grow up with some cool dudes like them.
Yeah. Okay. And how about like in school settings or community center settings? I mean, were there leagues that you could participate in, or was that something you noticed, wasn't there for you and for others?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. I grew up in small town Missouri, so I have a little bit of relationship with growing up in Missouri, being born in Wisconsin, spending a lot of my high school and college career in Wisconsin. So just so you understand the back and forth. Small town Missouri, there's not a lot of information there. And so I had to move to bigger Milwaukee, Wisconsin area to find again that lady that was passionate enough to come up to me and tell me that I needed to play. But ultimately, those opportunities weren't there. I did get a chance one time when I was in fifth grade to play in the YMCA league. They were trying something new, which was really cool, especially about 2005, right? That they were trying to do some inclusive stuff like that. And ultimately, just some kids were getting hurt with my wheelchair being in the play and things like that. And that was making me emotional as a kid that was trying to fit in. So there were moments where, we tried those things and I was pretty discouraged. So to be able to ultimately find my own space one day where I could compete successfully was really awesome to me.
So for those who aren't familiar with the term adaptive sports, like what does that encompass? Is this what we might think of like what the events are in the Paralympics? Is it different than that? What counts as adaptive sports?
That's an awesome question too. It's just an umbrella of any sport that's trying to be adapted to make sure that people can be included, right? And like that can include baseball, soccer, anything that you want to compete at, right? There is a group of people that have tried to adapt that with under the adaptive sports umbrella. Again, is those different and individual adaptive sports, and depending on the level of support that each sport has and the passion that the people have within those sports is actually how much awareness is out there for each of those things and things like that.
Okay. When you started playing wheelchair basketball, were you good at it? Like, how long did it take to become a good player? And what were the things that were that you had to learn to do?
Yeah, it's funny that they say those who can't do, they coach, right? And so my teammates would probably give me a hard time, and we would have conversations like that, right? I was your standard bench player, worked really hard as a walk on to again be on the team, and ultimately got to start some tournaments and things like that. So I'm really thankful. But my experience was ultimately developing and becoming the player that I was because of my college coach Jeremy Lottie, and again the expectations of the program. And then what made living up to those expectations fun and easy and desirable was, again, the appreciation that the campus had for our program.
Okay. And at the college level, say that there's a wheelchair basketball team. Is it operating as like equivalent of a club sport, a varsity sport? What's the range of support that these teams are getting from their universities?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Honestly, that varies campus to campus. Some campuses have committed to we want to be an NCAA program and be a part of our NCAA athletics on our campus. So they're going to, put effort into following those guidelines and things like that. There are other campuses like UW Whitewater that are going to operate under a, club sports umbrella just to give them a different perspective on how they can interact with their athletes and the things that they can make happen. So really, again, that is individual to each kind of program. And I would say that it runs from club level to, yes, there are a few programs that are putting into that NCAA expectations and things
That's
like
right.
that.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So like you could get a scholarship and it would be just like any other team they have there. What's your thought on that? It seems like that could be just a fundamental issue of fairness, like with Title IX ensuring there's equal opportunities for male athletes and female athletes, that there should be equal opportunities for disabled athletes as well.
Yeah, I love that people are starting to think that way. That means that we as disabled athletes are having the conversation the right way, just to include us into things like that. My thoughts on it are there are different levels of opportunity for everyone, and for us to have D3 schools, Division II schools, college, community college, and then those bigger Division I programs, right? I think is all great for the sport. Just given again all different backgrounds and demographics of athletes with disabilities or adaptive sports athletes opportunity. So I'm kind of thankful for the diversity within our division.
Mhm.
I have a perspective of we can really work together within our division to create more opportunities and awareness. So you'll hear me talk about, each individual program really has areas where they shine and, can provide specific opportunities to people with disabilities.
Okay. One trend that I seem to hear about at smaller schools, especially, is the importance of the student athletes to enrollment at the universities. Is that a factor in this too? Is schools adding adaptive sports or wheelchair basketball, for example, as a recruiting mechanism, that would appeal to certain high school students or continuing education students to even just enroll in that college or university?
I think to appeal to students is a little bit more of a difficult, experience. But I think to appeal to, funding and different different areas of the community within our community, I apologize. A wheelchair basketball program really helps with the promotion of, inclusivity and opportunity and things like that. And so I think it's really about bringing awareness to our campus within our community and within our state more so than it is like, we want to do these things to get, specific majors excited. Obviously, that's like trickle down kind of economical things that
Mhm.
happen with, specific goals. But I think really the focus is, again, how can we bring disability awareness and opportunities for, again, disabled athletes to our campus?
Okay, so you take this new job as the first head coach at St. Clair County Community College. Were there already enough disabled athletes on campus to form a team? How do you put your first team together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking any advice I can get at this point. I'm a young guy. I mean, I say I'm young. I'm just turning 30 here in a couple of days. But, really that's the questions that I'm working with Pete on in our campus, really to understand our expectations and what our first step is. If you're asking me personally how I think we do that, is we just put the jerseys on and we play whoever's willing to play us, and we live stream it and we make the live stream as awesome as we can. We create summer camps and other, higher education events to bring people to campus so they can see how beautiful like just this area is and all the water we have, and the excitement that people have on this campus for just new opportunities and people that are being successful. So I think getting people is here is a huge part of that first step. And what do you do to create that kind of excitement?
Okay. What are the parameters on who's eligible to play on a wheelchair basketball team?
Yeah, so depending on the division that you're in, right, there's going to be different guidelines and things like that. I will talk about how our sport is changing to allow able-bodied athletes to compete in our sport. A lot of people talk about, well, they're taking away opportunities for people with disabilities. Well, I kind of argue the opposite of that, and where they're creating opportunities, bringing awareness to our sport. But I can explain that a little bit better and just saying really quickly that we have a point system in our sport, right? And really, we have professionals that decide our classification for the sport, and classifications are, 1 point through 5 points on a half point scale, if that makes sense to you. So there can be 1 O's, 1.5s, 2 O's, 2.5s, up to five, right? So ultimately, you can only have so many points on the floor. And what those more able bodied people are doing is one, just bringing more 4 5s into the game, the highest points, right, that you can be, to create more opportunities for, someone like me who's a low class, a class one, to get in the game and compete, right? Because ultimately you can have different lineups with different abilities and things like that.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So I know that you hosted a significant tournament there in the state of Michigan just as you were getting started, or even before you were officially hired as the coach, that got a lot of attention up in Michigan. But tell us about the wheelchair basketball tournament that SC4 hosted.
Yeah, I can just tell you some things that I love. I love that, I was able to walk into a gym and, people were getting excited to see me again because I actually had taken a year or two off of just being around the sport. So seeing my old friends in the community and, SC4 being able to see that I was so connected was awesome. I also think just having so many people come up and talk about our beautiful field house and how awesome that was, and the energy that was kind of coming from SC4 staff was really great. And then the other thing I got really excited about was just our connection with Michigan State University in Michigan, right? And so just to know that the state of Michigan is putting a ton of effort into, again, those levels of experiences for collegiate wheelchair basketball was awesome, because we started to talk about, doing halftime shows, adaptive sports days and seminars and things like that. And I think a connection between all of the programs that are trying to start in the state would, again, be really awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I saw pictures and, like the Michigan team, it looked like the Wolverines uniforms that I'm used to seeing, and SC4 almost beat Michigan State, right? You took them to overtime, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was a really fun game. And the big news about that is we had never really hung out before. Like I hadn't been to a practice. Those guys had maybe had a couple practices. And so some of the funny things that happen, I'm very like passionate about how I do things, making sure people understand kind of my foundational things specifically. But I had a whiteboard and was kind of drawing up some things right away. And, there was a couple giggles about right now, right away. And that kind of thing. But again, really cool that we were able to talk about some basic things and had a really great time. And we just had a big lead. And there was a dude on Michigan State that could really shoot the basketball, and he showed us that day. So that was really cool. That again, the game was just awesome.
So from a coaching perspective, what's different about coaching a wheelchair basketball team as opposed to a more traditional basketball team? Or like there are certain coaching fundamentals or styles of offense and defense that do you decide between, or like what are you trying to implement as a coach?
Yeah, so we're trying to make the other team take the farthest shot away from the basket that we possibly can. So a lot of your defense, when you start to get some athletes and play high level, is going to be press basketball. If you're playing in the half court, we call that a teacup. It's really easy to visualize because you just imagine five guys kind of lining up with the arc of the 3 point line, and they're going to just match up with the first person that comes down the court based on where they are in that line, type of thing. So it kind of goes from a, zone kind of defense to man, and it's really switching back and forth and talking about specifically how you're trying to play defense against the team you're playing against.
Really interesting. I know there's been documentaries about wheelchair basketball and oftentimes a pretty rough style of play too. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's all about getting contact and stopping chairs. You'll hear people say that. Some of the first advice I get is, who cares about fouls? Just go up and feel what it feels like to hit somebody and stop them and learn that. And so, yeah, that contact is there and it's very important. So it happens a lot. So people will fall over and things like that. We're actually strapped into our chairs. So when you fall over, the game doesn't have to stop and things like that. You'll even do drills in your practices to teach players how to do push ups in their chairs and get themselves back up during the game.
Okay. And then your role at the community college is more than just the wheelchair basketball coach, Craig. What else are you doing there to further the cause of disabled students at the school?
Yeah, I'm a disability resource coordinator, and so I work with students to provide them with academic accommodations to, ultimately be successful. But a big piece of my role in this position is also going to be just creating awareness for our office and, disability awareness and pride, and making people and students feel comfortable about coming to us as a resource. So really within that, that's really my role, is just come here, be excited, and again, provide those academic accommodations and things like that.
Okay. Um, what do you think are some of the misconceptions people have about adaptive sports that are overcome like as soon as you go see it? I imagine, right? But is that part of what you're doing too? Is overcoming some of these misconceptions that people have?
Yeah, a lot. That was a lot of my focus in my younger years, right? Is how I kind of do that. I talk a lot now about how I'm more, appreciative of my disability experience and things like that. So just understanding of educating people on those misconceptions, right? And to speak on those, I think it would just be the physicality and the speed of the game. These are some high level athletes. Those that have had people in wheelchairs in high school with them, right? They may remember being in gym class and doing the mile and like getting smoked by the dude in the wheelchair that did the mile with them, right? That kind of thing. So just more, again, athletes that are at that level and can kind of show people what our true ability is.
You mentioned at the beginning, like when you were in a small town in Missouri, there really weren't that many opportunities, provided. And so people watching this, if they themselves are disabled or their child is, and they're interested in finding out more about the opportunities that are there to play, are there national websites or organizations that are, a good resource for people?
Yeah, Move United. Move United is a great organization that just wants to make people aware of adaptive sports, job opportunities within adaptive sports. I think to speak specifically on universities that are doing a really good job at what they do, I'll ultimately want to start with my alma mater and Whitewater, and just knowing that they have a really successful Center for Students with Disabilities. They've been really proud of their wheelchair basketball program for a long time. They do disability awareness presentations within their community to let kids try wheelchair basketball, to learn more about individual experiences with disabilities. I think that's really great. I can't speak as much on other programs, but I can mention that people love the University of Illinois and just what it means to go there and be a part of that community. The University of Alabama has committed to a $10 million facility for their athletes to kind of hang out in, train in, have their own space. I think that's really beautiful. So yeah, I think the individual work that people are doing just needs to be bragged about a little bit better. Again, hopefully, hoping to bridge some of those gaps of communication with these other universities. But knowing that that's out there is important. Google that stuff. Google my
Yeah, that's
name.
really great information and
Yeah.
interesting to hear about all these major Power Five programs that are investing in this. It seems like, I mean, is your vision that down the road there will be like Big Ten, SEC competition, just like there is in able-bodied sports?
Yeah, down the road, I would love to see that many teams pop up to where we could have individual conferences and things like that. I think what we need in order for that to happen is a commitment from our able-bodied population to sit in the chair and compete with us. Because ultimately, we talked about that point system, right? We can't have a team of 4 or 5 able-bodieds, but if we get them on our team, 5 of them, and they can sit the bench and practice with us and travel, that's the kind of energy that's going to create those opportunities, I think.
Okay, well, that's great, Jordan. Thank you so much. You've really educated me on a lot of these issues, and I think that it seems like you're in a field that's really growing and providing opportunities for a lot of people. So we'll be rooting for you and your team at SC4, and hopefully you'll win that next tournament that you play in. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I know I can kind of ramble off a little bit, but hopefully I got some good information out there to you.
Yeah, you sure did. All right, you have a good
Awesome.
day.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.